Welcome to my channel. Jimmy is with you as always. Today we are waiting for another selection of stories. Do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me to develop thanks to you. Thank you for the content. Well, we are starting. First story today from the user. Annabelle, let's listen. My oldest sister, Elaine, 31 female, is getting married in October 2022 to her fiancé of 4 years, Stephen, 35 male. I, 25 female, am the youngest of 4 sisters, although from my perspective, we have always been close growing up. Well, in May, Elaine asked our second sister, Gabriella, 29F, to be her maid of honor, which is understandable because they have always been super close growing up. Me and my third sister, Celia, 26 female, expected to be bridesmaids too. However, Elaine decided to include Stephen's daughters, Tiffany, 12 female, and Sasha, 8 female, in the bridal party instead, which we were obviously a little upset about but understood that it was our sister's special day. Well, anyway, in July I was visiting our mom, while Elaine and Gabriella were also visiting. I overheard them planning the wedding and decided to ask about the wedding colors since I was and am still super excited for my sister to get married. Elaine told me she was thinking of something bespoke and non-traditional for her wedding dress, which I thought was cool and totally her style. Though I still assumed the color of the dress would be white, but had no way of checking since I wasn't a bridesmaid. And any texts I sent to Gabriella were ignored because it's supposed to be a surprise. In August, I picked out a yellow dress online as I thought it was a safe bet, color-wise. Before I bought the dress, I sent a picture to Gabriella, who once again left me on read. I asked Celia if she thought the dress was okay, and she agreed that since it's not floor length, it should be okay to wear to Elaine's wedding. The dress is a light yellow, knee-length, plain asymmetrical dress, and it was finally delivered last week. After it was delivered, I sent pictures to everyone, and then Elaine freaked out at me. She called me 7 times while I was at work. When I finally picked up, she yelled at me about how I was an awful sister and was stealing my new niece's spotlight at her wedding. Apparently, Tiffany and Sasha were supposed to be the only ones wearing yellow, because Elaine wanted them to feel special. I told Elaine that if I ordered another dress, it wouldn't arrive on time, to which she told me to go to a bridal store and buy a different dress. I told her that I had already spent $50 on a new dress for her wedding, and that I wasn't going to spend another $200 on a fancy bridal store dress. Elaine called me selfish and told me not to bother attending her wedding if I didn't change my dress last minute. Everyone in our family is saying I'm an asshole for wanting to take away attention from 2 little girls on their dad's wedding day, and that I should just suck it up for my sister. So, Ada? Author edited the story. As so many kind people have pointed out, yes, I could go to Goodwill and find another dress. I have already suggested this to Elaine, but she rejected that idea because this is my wedding, not a Walmart. I also offered to wear an old homecoming dress, which is pink. This also wasn't good enough for Elaine because Gabriella is wearing pink, and Elaine didn't want me to be dressed exactly like Gabriella, even though Celia is also wearing a similar pink dress. I could go to Goodwill in my spare time, but Elaine has said that she wants to pick out the dress so I don't ruin her wedding. As for dyeing the yellow dress, I don't want to spend $50 on fabric dye only for it to go wrong and then be down $100 with no dress to wear. To my sister's wedding, which is in early October. Author update this story. Elaine's wedding was this past Tuesday, and as many people suggested, I wore my old homecoming dress, which was a pink knee-length dress. In the days leading up to the wedding, my mom and Elaine called me non-stop to tell me that if I wore a yellow dress, I would not be allowed into the wedding venue, and that Elaine should be the one to pick my dress from a bridal shop. As many people suggested, I told Elaine that she wanted to pick my dress, she could pay for it. Elaine became extremely annoyed with me for my response, as it was disrespectful to her personally, and as a bride, and that I should be more understanding about how expensive weddings are. I reminded her that she was the one who wanted a large black tie wedding, and that no one forced her to be so controlling over colors and outfits. Elaine then proceeded to block me via text, but clearly told our family what I said because I continued to receive texts from our mom and Gabriella, who told me I was rude and that wedding planning is stressful and I should be more accommodating. I told my mother and Gabriella that if Elaine wanted to be so controlling about my dress that she could pay for it, or I would wear my old homecoming dress. That shut both my mom and Gabriella up, and I didn't hear anything else about the topic of dresses from them until the morning of Elaine's wedding. On the day of Elaine's wedding, I waited for 10 minutes while my mother refused to send me the directions to the wedding venue because she didn't know how. Eventually, I gave up on my mom and asked Celia to send the directions instead, because clearly our mom wanted me to miss the wedding. At this point, I was considering not attending the wedding at all, but I figured if I attended that, my family couldn't say that I lacked effort or was being petty towards my sister. When I arrived at the wedding venue, most of the guests were already there. As I said, Elaine planned to have 100 people at her wedding, and since she hadn't specified that no one should wear yellow, there were at least 10 people present dressed in yellow, one of whom was Stephen's mother. Well, anyway, the real drama started when the rest of our extended family arrived at the wedding. My mother's brother began talking to me and said that he was glad I managed to get a new dress, and that yellow wasn't my color anyway. So I asked him if he thought it was appropriate for his sister, my mother, to wear white to her own daughter's wedding, which he didn't reply. I got a lot of dirty looks from other family members and mean comments about how cheap I was and how much audacity I had to ask the bride to pay for my dress. At that point, I figured I could suck it up for a few more hours just to see Elaine get married, and that I could then drop off the wedding gift at the reception. Well, at the wedding reception, Elaine came up to me and pulled me aside. She told me that since she didn't think I would come to the wedding, that she had canceled my meal and that I owed her $110 if I wanted to eat at her wedding. Since it cost her $110 per head to book, I asked her why she had anticipated her own sister not attending her wedding, and she made out like it was my fault. I told her that I didn't have to deal with this, and if this was how she wanted to be, that she could consider herself no longer my sister. I left Elaine's wedding immediately and took my gift with me, just a bottle of wine and a card. My family have texted me non-stop about how petty and jealous I am of Elaine. So Reddit was right. My sister was trying to exclude me from her wedding, thanks for that. I will now be going no contact with Elaine and my mother for their favorism. What I think about this story? If you change it, then you do, but petty and selfish when you showed it to her before you even bought it, and showed your other sister too, you surely ain't. It's been in her messages since August, and she only flips after you having it and bought. I get weddings are stressful, but you are still her sister. You tried to get her opinion on if it was okay. You had no idea who was wearing what. My suggestion is, try finding secondhand dress shops in your area to find another. Because you shouldn't have to drop $200 on a dress when you are not in the bridal party. I'm sorry your family is putting you down over something as a dress when you made every effort to make sure it was okay before buying it. Let's check the user comment. Can you just not tell them where you got it? It seems like an info diet is in order here. You got a new dress, as she requested. Period. Say nothing more. Where you got it or how much you spent is not their business. If they demand to know whether it was from a thrift shop, then that tells you that it's not about the dress or even about the color. It's about control, and your sister needing to put you in your place for her wedding, as if not having you in the wedding party hasn't already told you enough about what she thinks of you. She made you nothing but a guest at her wedding, and the bride gets zero say in what guests to her wedding wear. She can't have it both ways. NTA, clearly. Hugs. The second story today from the user Iriof Dusk. Let's listen. I, 30 female, have been with my boyfriend, 30 male, for just shy of a decade. He's a very clean-cut guy and very professional in appearance. I, on the other hand, have a sleeve of tattoos, dyed hair, and pierced ears. He WFH as a lead programmer for a company while I work as a manager, pet groomer. Despite our opposite looks and career choices, we have lots of interests and opinions in common. If anything, I think our differences help balance us out. Some background that may help add context to our relationship. I started getting tattoos before we met, but my biggest piece was done 2 years ago. He's not a big fan of tattoos and has absolutely no plan to ever get any. I've never pushed, but I have asked if he'd get a tiny one with me. It's not a big deal for me, so after he said no, I've just left it. He wasn't a fan of my big piece, but because I've had ink done before, he voiced some concerns about the amount of money I've spent, but left it at that. Fast forward to this past month. I've always liked the jewelry that people with stretched ears get to wear. Some of it looks really cool, pretty, and I, on a whim, decided I would stretch my current piercings. With the help and advice of a friend, I got a kit and have been working on stretching, with the goal being about a 2G or 1G max. When I first told him about this, he voiced that he really did not like how they looked, and he did not want me stretching to the point where you could look through my ear or fit a pencil. I told him not to worry and that I'd stop before I got to the generally accepted point of no return. Today I was moving up from a 10G to an 8G, and he was watching me moisturize and sanitize my jewelry and ears. Once again, he asked how big I was going, and I showed him what a 2G looked like. He gave me an unpleasant look and explained that he, again, really hated how gauges and stretched ears looked. He further went into explain that stretched ears were not my aesthetic, as it was more punk, where I fit more into streetwear or gal styles. He doesn't like how they look and doesn't think I'll look good with them. I was disheartened. I took out my jewelry, packed them up, and put them away to maybe discard. I'm now sitting here debating whether I should continue stretching because it's something I want for myself, or if I should honor his wishes and stop. I already pushed my luck with how many tattoos and how big they are, so maybe I should give up on this one thing. I don't want him to think I'm unattractive, so I don't want to change myself past what he's willing to accept. But I also don't want him to tell me what to do with my body. So WIBTA, if I continued stretching my ears after my boyfriend expressed how much he hates it? Author update the story. Thanks to everyone that weighed in. I spent some time reading as many comments as I could. I didn't just read the comments saying NTA or NAH, I also read the ones that said YTA and some of the chains that went on a tangent about ear stretching. I couldn't read them all, but I did want to post an update and respond to some of the comments as a whole. I told him last night that I have decided to stop stretching. He simply gave me a in response, while we continued to make dinner, and we haven't talked about it since. I know I'm allowed to do with my body as I see fit, and he's free to leave me if he wants. Neither him nor I look, act, or think like when we first met. Some of the changes by choice and others because aging is a thing. Tastes have changed, but I have still chosen him. I want to believe that he still continues to choose me. This choice to stop was not because he told me to, but because, as a lot of people have mentioned, relationships are a give and take. At almost a decade, what I do to my ears or not is not a hill I'm willing to die on. To those of you who have showed concern about the language I used in my post, I am grateful for your concern, and I wholeheartedly believe this is a choice I made, and not a decision based on any fear of abandonment. A few commenters asked how's I'd like it if he changed himself in a way that I didn't find attractive. Short answer is, I don't have an answer. I'd like to say at this point in our relationship, I am here because of who he is on the inside. While I do believe that to be my answer, I am a human and I am flawed. Maybe there is a thing he could do, but I can't think of anything. I know it seems like I stretched my ears from a 14G to a tang very quickly. You would be correct. I read several articles stating that I should wait a month or so. I have also read several posts from people with stretched ears that said to listen to my body. I won't bore anyone with the details, but I opted to listen to my body. Finally, to the user concerned about stretched ears in my line of work. It's not a hazard, I assure you. My GM and a couple of my colleagues have gauges and have never had a dog almost rip one. Your comment made me chuckle because, if anything, we're all more concerned about dogs kicking our tools than damage to our body, or body mods, and I regret not replying before I lost it in the sea of comments. What I think about it, you can only do so many things your partner finds unattractive before they decide that they now find you unattractive. He wasn't a fan of tattoos, but kept his mouth pretty much shut, despite her getting multiple and bigger ones. That combined with the stretched ears might have been too much and is where he would draw the line. Let's check the user comment. I feel like I'm going crazy. I would not care even if my partner had a complete change of looks. I honestly would be excited for them finding new ways to express themselves. I could not be with someone if I knew something like how my ears look could change their attraction to me. That's wild. We all change. Thanks to everyone who watched to the end. I'm waiting for your opinion in the comments under this video. See you today in the second part. I love you all. Good day to all.